Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch. Dan Stapleton. This is our show where we follow all the news and rumors on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, which of course are current gen consoles anymore. But what are we going to do? The title of the show is Next Gen Console Watch. Current Gen Console Watch just doesn't have the same ring to it. I'm Damon Hatfield. Joining me, as always, are Jonathan Dornbush, host of IGN's PlayStation podcast, Podcast Beyond.
We're going to get a slack from Dan now about that.
Yeah, well, send him my way. Send him to talk to me.
All right, I will do.
And Ryan McCaffrey, host of IGN's Xbox podcast, Podcast Unlocked.
I love how this show started as like a serious kind of, cable news type, pundit thing. And now it's devolved to just the consoles have been out so long. It's just inside jokes that only two people are going to understand.
It started in election year. But then you know what? Interest didn't die off.
Over. Yeah.
The election's over. The consoles are out. Interest didn't die off. This show is still popular, so we have to keep making it. We're chained to the show's own popularity. But I'm happy to do it. I love both the current gen consoles, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. We're going to begin this week talking about PlayStation 5 and some news about upcoming exclusives. It sounds like there is a lot on the way beyond Ratchet Clank Rift Apart, which Jonathan previewed recently and is just around the corner. So, PlayStation Studios head Herman Hulst says they have more than 25 PlayStation 5 games in development, half of which are new IP. New IP is industry jargon for new games, not sequels, basically. So this is should be exciting news for PlayStation 5 owners wondering what's going to be coming after Ratchet Clank Rift Apart. Jonathan, what does this sort of mean to you? There are some games that we know are coming. We know Horizon Forbidden West is coming. We know there's a new God of War. 25 games in total. What does this sort of like mean to you?
Well, I think the first thing it means is we had a report a few weeks ago from Bloomberg about how there was worry about taking risks and sort of a doubling down on the franchises that did work rather than trying to go outside the bounds of those things within PlayStation. This sort of specific number, because it is a very specific and very high number to announce right now. I think it's definitely sort of meant to sort of ease expectations. Hey, we're going to have more games coming out, because the thing I've said on the show a lot is with PlayStation, I think you can see the next year or so of what they have going on really well. And beyond that is kind of a total mystery. And so this gives us at least some sense that there is a lot more beyond, as you were mentioning, Rift Apart, God of War, Horizon Forbidden West, Gran Turismo 7. Those are the main games from within PlayStation Studios that we know about. I think the thing about there being 25 games, so many of them being new IP, something else to keep in mind is that PlayStation Studios does publish games that are not just made by the Worldwide Studios teams. PlayStation Studios has the XDev team within it, which often works with external developers, XDev. And so that's how you see partnerships for things like Destruction All-Stars and Returnal, which are not made by Sony internally. Sony XDev works with them and they publish it under the PlayStation brand. I would guess that there wasn't specificity there, so this could, be clarified down the line. I would guess, though, that means including some of those partnership games in here, but still meaning PlayStation console exclusives.
Got it. There are all these rumors about PSVR 2, which continue to swirl. So would you presume that some of those titles could be PSVR games?
For sure, especially because I think we'll need a hefty lineup to give people who have already put down, $400 or $500 on this new console a reason to then spend a couple hundred more on a VR device. Obviously, the Asobi team who made Astro's Playroom and Astrobot Rescue Mission. Rescue Mission was a phenomenal PSVR title, so they have a lot of pedigree and history with that. London Studios, we know they're working on a new PS5 game, brand new sort of IP that they're working on, apparently, according to job listings. They made Blood and Truth for PSVR, which was, again, a really, really great example of what PSVR could do. So I'm sure we will see some VR games within that catalog, and that's also probably a good place to get new IP in there as well. But I think regardless, you're going to see a lot of, hopefully, familiar franchises that we all really love, established ones like God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, and more. And then whether it's external or internal teams, that breadth of new IP that can hopefully sustain through the generation and into whatever next gen is. Not to think that far ahead, but hey, it is next gen console watch after all.
It is true. It's true. Never too early to start watching those next gen consoles. So 25 PlayStation 5 exclusives currently in development. Ryan, how do you suppose that stacks up to upcoming Xbox exclusives?
Well, there'll be plenty. I mean, you've got 23 studios now at Microsoft, and if each of them make one game, you're already right there. But we know plenty of them have more than one team. Obsidian has 3 teams that we know of. Playground is 2 teams. So there's plenty to go around. Now, yeah, I think Jonathan made a good point about how the immediate year or so of PlayStation 5 and Sony first party is pretty clear at this point. But then going past that, it gets murkier, at least for now. Whereas Microsoft's kind of the opposite. They've really shown their hand, but they just haven't shipped anything yet. There isn't much coming up. I mean, we're expecting Psychonauts 2, and we're expecting, of course, Halo Infinite being the first party releases this year, and then the console version of Microsoft Flight Simulator as well. But Microsoft had to show their hand because they've had, they have more to prove in the first party department than Sony. But we know what most of these new, at least of the non-Bethesda first party studios are working on. You've got Fable, you've got from Playground's second team, you've got Perfect Dark, that reboot from the new team at The Initiative. You've got actually just today, In Exile, one of the RPG studios that Microsoft has now. They have shipped Wasteland 3 last year, and they had already let us know that they're working on 2 Unreal Engine 5 role-playing games for the future. They kind of hinted at one of them just as we record today on Twitter in response to the official Xbox account, basically saying FPS plus RPG. That seems to be an indication of where they're going. But most of the studios, we know more than that. We know what the actual games are. We have State of Decay 3 in there. There's the Forza Motorsport reboot in there. There's a pretty good list of things. Even Age of Empires from World's Edge on the PC side, but still under the Xbox umbrella. So it's just on Microsoft to start delivering it. But we know there's a lot coming from Microsoft as well.
Mm-hmm. Smaller stuff too that was supposed to be out by now, but it's gotten delayed, like Scorn and Bright Memory Infinite, right?
Yeah, those are third-party games, but they are exclusives. Which which if we're counting them, as Jonathan notes here, with like the project from Jade Raymond, that we probably count those on the Xbox side as well. But yeah, there's still a good bit coming in that department as well, including some of the triple I stuff like Tunic. Like 12 minutes, which I just previewed and is fantastic. So yeah, it's still a slow year for the moment for Microsoft. It'll slowly start to pick up, but yeah, the future is really bright on the Xbox side, and you heard Jonathan talk about how there's a lot to look forward to on the PlayStation side as well. So I'm happy that this generation's finally really starting to get going.
Bright future and a bright memory. And then you mentioned Tunic. Man, that game has been a long time coming. I'm still looking forward to that one.
One developer.
You also mentioned Bethesda, and there's still a big question mark, isn't there, on whether or not future Bethesda games will be exclusive to Microsoft.
Yeah. I mean, Starfield's that's going to be the next big salvo. I suspect we'll get an answer to that at E3. Whether or not it ships this year, I feel like it's kind of a 50-50 coin flip, whether it's going to ship this year or next, because it has been in the works for a long time. Todd Howard's team, this is their game. Todd Howard's team has not shipped anything since 2015 with Fallout 4. Wow. So they've been working on Starfield for a while. Fallout 76 was not led by them. They supported it. So this could be the year for Starfield, or if not this year, I would think very, very good chance it's sometime next year. But yeah, I mean, Starfield's going to be the potential ace up Microsoft's sleeve exclusivity-wise, unless, as with Ghostwire Tokyo and Deathloop, Sony got to it and signed an exclusivity deal prior to the Microsoft acquisition. But if Starfield is indeed exclusive to Microsoft, that's going to be as big as Halo Infinite or possibly bigger. Like that has the potential to be a major, major new deal for them.
Jumping back to PlayStation for a moment, Jonathan, the next big exclusive for PS5 is Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and you previewed that this week. Is that right?
I did. I saw about 40 minutes of a hands-off demo, so I still haven't gotten to play it yet, but I saw about 40 new minutes of gameplay. We have in my video preview about 10 minutes of it, so you can see some of that gameplay for yourself as it's intended in 4K quality and whatnot. But yeah, I saw a decent chunk of it, including both a major Ratchet specific section and then a section focused on the new Lombax Rivet we'll also be playing as for a chunk of the game.
And what were your impressions?
I think it looks like a really proper next gen or current gen game, however we want to phrase it. It's being developed exclusively for PS5. It isn't cross gen. And it feels like Insomniac is really taking a lot of the lessons they learned from past Ratchet & Clank games, as well as Spider-Man and Sunset Overdrive, and offering players a lot more freedom and play style options, as well as offering a bit more of a, I don't want to say mature story, but like emotionally mature. There seems to be more heart and a deeper narrative there that I really appreciate. But on the game side, I saw a ton of combat, a few of the worlds that you'll be exploring, and the sort of scope and scale seems beyond anything they've done in past games. And it definitely feels like something, because of the PS5, that they're getting to take advantage of. And I spoke with the creative director of the game, Marcus Smith, as well as the game director, Mike Daly, and we have some interview cliphouse on IGN. But one of the things that Marcus Smith really said that struck a chord with me was that, I think we've all been pretty impressed by what Ratchet & Clank is doing since that first demo last year. And he said, what's great about the life cycles of PlayStation, the way we work in them, things are only going to get better from here. This is what they're doing at the start of the generation. And so knowing how talented and what we've seen from Insomniac, to see what they may do 3 or 4 years from now even is I think something to really look out for. It's going to be really exciting.
And I got to jump in for a second too, because reading Jonathan's preview and watching the footage, this is like, to me, head and shoulders the most next gen game so far. Obviously, we're super early in the generation, but it just looks phenomenal. And I want to give credit to, because we know Insomniac, they have the North Carolina team that's always done Ratchet, and the Santa Monica team that's done Spider-Man. This is a great user theory that I got to give credit to. So it's a Twitter follower of mine, an IGN fan, whose Twitter handle is at NSX_AL87. He goes, his name is listed as AR on here, but he said, you got to love this. Said, what if it's the rift apart tech, the engine for the game is going to be used in a Spider-Man multiverse game for the next one, like, jumping into other Spider-Man worlds. And why wouldn't they share a tech pipeline, right, sure, Jonathan? Like that is one of the coolest theories I've seen yet, and like one of the smartest potential applications of a developer, sharing its own tech pipeline with its own internal team.
Yeah, talking to Mike and Marcus, they definitely mentioned of how, a lot of the Rift Apart team came from Insomniac 2018 and shifted over. And obviously those teams, when needed, share resources and share tech and manpower and everything, obviously being within the same company. So I totally think there's potential for something like that. I think I hope we see some fun nods to Insomniac's other work, legal questions notwithstanding, because I imagine it might be hard to get a Marvel thing in a non-Marvel game. But I feel like the potential for what they're doing, and they talked about this a bit in our interview, they are, fully rendering 2 different worlds, 2 different levels in the game simultaneously. They're not, if you take a portal to another world, they're not just rendering that small little bit of land. They are accessing that entire part of the game and loading it in. And that's hugely impressive. And they're even, seemingly impressed by how well they've gotten it to work this early in the generation. So yeah, I think this is only the start of what they're going to be able to do with that tech.
And I believe we're less than a month away now from Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, which also means we're less than a month away from E3. So lots of exciting stuff just on the horizon. Now, both consoles, PS5 and Xbox Series X, remain difficult to find for a lot of people, but at least for Xbox, seems like they've come up with a way to offer Xbox Series X sales directly to some of their biggest fans and in a way that will circumvent scalpers and bots, hopefully. Ryan, can you sort of elaborate on this new process?
Yeah, we don't have a lot of details yet, but Xbox is going to be offering a chance through the Insider program, which anybody can sign up for. It's a chance to sort of effectively be a beta tester for upcoming dashboard system functionality stuff. And you'll be able to sign up through there for a chance to be selected to purchase an Xbox Series X through there, which they're saying not everybody that enters is going to get selected. It is still limited supply, but we talked on this show after the pre-order debacle with both consoles last fall that these companies need to figure out a better way to do this. And this is definitely a step in that direction. I mean, Sony, to their credit, offered some consoles directly through Sony themselves. If you had to be through your PlayStation account, be a registered user. And now Microsoft, through their insider program, is going to be doing the same thing. So I love to see that. It's kind of taking a little bit of a cue from a little bit of Apple and probably maybe more akin to a sneaker drop through like a Nike app or something. So we'll see what the supply ends up being and how many people are actually able to get consoles through this. But these are, people that have signed up to be in the insider program are by nature, by the very act of signing up to be part of the insider program, you're more than just a casual player. You're a more hardcore player. And so it's great that Microsoft is sort of going to be able to help get those hardcore users specifically, get them a Series X that they've no doubt been trying to find for the last 6 months.
Jonathan, is this something you'd like to see PlayStation offer as well? Maybe PlayStation Plus subscribers will have the opportunity to buy a PlayStation 5 directly from within their PS4 interface?
I mean, yeah, I think the biggest takeaway from these launches is that probably next time around, it's still going to be pretty difficult. And anything they can do to really reward the base that has supported them for either the last few years or the last decade plus, we got the numbers. I think Jim Ryan had said around the beginning of the PlayStation's launch that 1 in 4 players were brand new. PS5 owners were new to the PlayStation ecosystem, but that's still 3/4 of the base who are longstanding players. And I think anything you can do to show respect and appreciation to them goes a long way in solidifying a fan for more than just even a single, life cycle of a console. It's a smart thing to do. And I hope we see more advancements as we get into next gen.
Okay, before we go, we have the results of last week's poll. We asked what unannounced game could first appear at E3 2021. And the winning result with almost 30% of the vote was Battlefield 6. Pretty safe bet, even if it isn't officially part of E3. EA has all but confirmed that Battlefield 6 will be revealed in June. Now, the second, the runner-up winner was GTA 6 with 25% of the vote. And I just want to measure everyone's expectations. I would not hold your breath for GTA 6 to be at E3 next month. A poll for you to vote in for next week. We want to know what exclusive lineup are you looking forward to the most, the PlayStation 5s or the Xbox Series X? Make sure to vote at IGN.com. We'll share the results with you next week. And that will do it for this edition of Next Gen Console Watch. I'm David Hatfield. Thanks as always to Ryan and Jonathan. We'll be back same time next week, same place, Friday morning, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern with more PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X news. We'll see you then.